Okay, so we are in Second Gate, Chapter 7. So this chapter is called The Influence of the Stars, aka Astrology. Okay. So let's figure this out. I mean, we're not going to figure this out, but let's... Okay, I know nothing about this topic, so we're just going to read to see if we could, whatever we can gain from the text, and that's it. But let's just look back quickly, before we even start, let's just look back once again, just to refresh our memory, to page page 70. Page 74. Right? So just remind ourselves, he said over there on page 74, he said, Chelkei Klal Habriya, the divisions of the general creation, Heim Gashmiim v'Ruchoniim, are two. They are the physical and the spiritual. Hagashmiim, what are the physical ones? Heim Hamurgoshim v'Chusheinu, these are the things that we can sense with our senses. Mischalkim le'elyonim v'tachtonim, and those are further subdivided into the upper ones and the lower ones. So physical things can be divided into two categories, the upper ones and the lower ones. Ha'elyonim, which are the upper ones, Heim klal hagromim hashmeimim. These are the things that we call the heavenly causes. Hagromim hashleimim, the heavenly causes. Okay, they translate over here heavenly bodies. Okay, celestial and terrestrial. Okay, so hagromim hashmeimim are heavenly causes. The Hainu, what are these things? Hagalgalim, the constellations. I shouldn't say constellations. Hagalgalim really means revolutions, rotations. That's what Galgal means. Galgal means to make a circle, right? So Galgalim is really referring to not constellations, really referring to the planets within the solar system. Okay, and the Koichaveya means and their stars. So it's the, what do you call it? What would you call this? The planets and their stars. Okay, let's just call it like that. Okay. Hagalgalim, the revolutions of the planets, the Koichavehem and their stars. It's interesting that he says it like that it's their stars. It's not that these constellations, those seems like the constellations are only in relation to the planet that they're connected with. Okay? Or maybe in that particular moment, it seems like you always look at the constellation as it relates to some planet. Okay? It happens to be interesting, it happens to be apropos, it just happens to have caught my attention that this morning before dawn we had an occultation. Okay, what's an occultation? An occultation is when some heavenly body covers another heavenly body. So it just happens to be that this morning, right before dawn, the moon covered Mars. Okay, which is going to happen 5 more times during 2020.
You looked up and saw the
No, I saw a headline. Just the headline came to mind. Right. So this morning before dawn, we had the moon cover for 15 seconds. It went over Mars, and then another 15 seconds, and it came out. Okay. So let's get back to this. Okay. So fine. So that's that. So now we're going to talk about this hashpa'as hakochavim, this influence of the stars. It didn't say of the planets, it says of the stars. Okay. Here we already explained in Chelik Rishon on the first part. That's the part that we just looked at. That all matters, all physical matters. Shorsham hu b'koichos hanivdolim. All physical matters, their root is in the transcendental forces. So forget the stars, what we said before, that everything that happens in the physical world first has its root in the spiritual world, and we're in the spiritual world in the koiches and evdolim, in what he calls transcendental forces. Va'amnam sham mishtorshim hanyonim ha'elim. However, it is true that those things are take root over there. b'chol hadrochim shetzrichim liyishtarish, in the various ways that the things need to take root. Right? The process begins, however it begins, over there. But ve'achar kach, however, afterwards, tzrichim le'otek, they need to be detached, v'limoshech, and brought down, el hagashmiyos, towards the physical. But surah shetzrichim le'motzei, whatever form that it needs to be made, right? So it begins with the transcendental forces, and then in order to get translated, all the way down, transmitted all the way down to the physical reality over here, there has to be some kind of a process. Okay, that's a two-step process. It's le'otek, to be detached from the spiritual world, v'le'moshech, and to be transmitted into the physical world. Okay, v'hinei l'tzorich zeh. So what mechanism do we use for this transmission process? L'tzorich zeh, for this need, huchnu hagalgalim v'koichavehem. Were prepared the spheres, the rotations, the planets, v'koichavehem, and their stars. Shebahem, that through them or with them, ubesibuvehem, and with their revolutions, nimshachim, transmitted, v'ne'atokim, and removed, kol oisam ha'inyonim, all those things, all those matters. Now over here, just to point out that I'm not sure what to do with it, but you see the order was reversed. In the beginning, he said that after the things take root in the transcendental forces, then you need le'otek, you need to remove, ulemoshech, and to pull down those things to the physical world. And over here, the order is different. The order over here is they're pulled down, nimshachim, and then v'ne'atokim, and then removed. So I'm not sure why he switches the order, but I don't think that's for naught. Okay, so kol oisim ha'inyonim, they need to be again removed and pulled down. V'shenishtarshu, that were rooted, v'nizmenu, or were prepared, l'mayla b'ruchonios, up above in the spiritual realm. Elagashmios, towards the physical, po lemata, here below. V'oimdim po b'tzura haruya, and then it is established here in the appropriate form. V'amnam, however, minyan ha'koichovim, the quantity of stars, umadregoisehem, and their levels, lekol machlekoseihem, in all their subdivisions, hoyu kefi mashirosa chochma elyono yosetzarech, is whatever God's wisdom decided was needed, v'nois, and appropriate el ha'etek hazeh shezacharna, for this removal process that we have mentioned. Okay, do we understand why this mechanism has to exist? No, I do not understand why this mechanism has to exist. I mean, I understand that there has to be some kind of a transmission process. We understand that what happens in the spiritual realm is very difficult to translate into the physical realm. We definitely understand that. Do we understand why that transmission process should be carried out by millions of stars, and in what way? How does that actually help the whole process? What does that do for us? Right now, that doesn't seem to be clear. Okay, I have maybe an idea but I'll come back to it. Let's just keep plugging away in the text first. V'hinei nishpa min ha'kochavim koyach hakiyum elo hatzomim. Now, it's influenced from the stars, the koyach hakiyum, the force of existence to things that exist, hagashmim, the physical ones, that are underneath. So first he's saying that this happens on two levels. First, just it seems like that for everything that exists, there's some kind of a what's the word? There's some kind of a corresponding. There you go. That's the word. Some kind of a corresponding star, or some kind of a corresponding constellation, or some kind of this for every existence there's some kind of a corresponding star. Okay, shall yideim netak inyonim bechinosoy lemala, that through that star or through that planet, this matter was removed from its original place, lemala, above b'shroshim, in the roots, el b'chinosei lemata, towards its existence here below. So it's some kind of a translation process, that if I want to create a child, there's got to be a star. It seems like there's got to be a star that is connected to that child. Okay, that's what it seems to say, or some constellation, maybe a multiple, or maybe a juxtaposition. I don't know. I don't know. But everything that exists has to be transmitted through the process of the. Okay, so that's the first part. And that's as far as existence, just bringing something into existence. Now comes the second paragraph. There's another matter that was instituted by God through the stars, these stars. Not only the bringing into existence of the physical things, but also everything that occurs to the physical things also happens through the mechanism of the stars. After again, they were prepared up above. They were going to be pulled down. Interesting. Okay, I just noticed something. So in they were going to be pulled down down below. So it seems to me like this. He uses the word netak in the previous 3 lines. He uses the word netak, which means to remove. Okay. And over here, he uses the word nimshachim, to be pulled down, to be brought down. Okay, so it sounds like so it sounds like very, to me it sounds like very specific. In the English, they use the same word, transmitted in both places. But in Hebrew, the word is different. And up above, 2 sentences above, it's ne'atak, and over here it's nimshachu, imoshchu. So it sounds like, to me, it sounds like that initially something gets created in the transcendental forces. The concept gets created. So it's the purpose of a created concept. You got to remove it, so to speak. Not remove it, but you got to remove it from its place in the forces and bring it down into the physical realm. And then the other concept is now you already brought it down, and now this thing exists already. Now what's going to happen to it? That's going to be influenced by, that's going to be nimshachim. That's going to be extended or pulled down by the same mechanism. Okay. So be'oisa atzura, again, in that form, shetzrichim likreis lehem, and whatever in that needs to happen to them. Derech mashal. So, for example, hachayim, life, ha'oisher, wealth, hachachma, wisdom, hazera, children, descendants, ukayoyts, and all these things, kol eile ha'inyonim, all of these things, muchonim l'mayla b'sharoshim, they are first prepared up above in the roots, v'ne'atokim, there's so much from my thesis, and then they are removed, lemata be'anofim, further down in the branches, b'tzura ha'ru'uya l'idei ha'koychav, in the form that is appropriate via that star. V'zeb machlokas yeduis, again, and this is in known divisions, u'bekibutzim yuchodim, in specific groupings, shehucha kulohem v'sibuvim yeduyim, again, that were prepared, and in the rotations that are known. Cycles, specific cycles, that's what they translate over here. Okay, so I'm not sure exactly all of the details, but again, the bottom line is, and so first, it seems clear that there are 2 different processes. There's a process of the creation of something, and then there's a process of what's going to happen to that something. Okay, let's continue. And again, and they were divided amongst them, all the things that will happen, all events, that will happen to the physical liminaim according to the various species. and all of the things in the physical realm were tied down to the shlita, the dominion of various either constellations or again positioning of stars or whatever that means. Okay, to make new, to create in them whatever was decided and influenced from above, according to the connection that was connected for each individual. It's very difficult to understand what he just added over here. Okay, English not very helpful. That last sentence. Through their systems, all things happen as a result of the influence emanating from the stellar array through its connection with each individual thing. Okay, so if you figured that one out, please let me know. I don't know what he's saying. Okay, 3. V'hine, behold, nishtabdu lezeh haseder kol bnei odom gam kein. So this applies not only to, the general concepts or the specific species of animals, the specific, right? Every single individual human being is also subjugated to this state, to this system. Li'yischadish b'hem, in order to make, li'yischadish means like to make new, but means meaning to occur, that something to make occur to them, whatever will be pulled down to them from this arrangement. Amnam, it is possible that occasionally the dominion of the stars will be suspended from some other force that is more dominant, that is above them. And this is the reason, the foundation of the idea, Ein Mazel L'Yisrael, that there is no mazel, there is no constellation, right? There's no constellation L'Yisrael to Jews. Kikoyach Gzeiroso Yizborach Shmoi, because the force of his decree, Vashpo'osoi, in his influence, Goiver, overpowers Al Koyach Hamutba, the force of nature, Bashpoyas Hamarocha, that God implanted into the influence of the Marocha, of this system, of the astrological system. V'tiyeh hatoilodo, and so the result will be Lefi hashpo halyoina, will come from direct intervention, from direct influence of God. V'loy lefi hashpoyas hamarocha, and not from the astrological influence. Okay, so let's just dwell on this issue for a second. So, we're all familiar with the concept Ein Mazel L'Yisrael, that the Jews are not subjugated to any constellation. Now, what does that mean exactly? What does that mean? So some people assume that Jews are not bound by constellations. So clearly he's not saying that. He said that occasionally God suspends the nature that he implanted into this whole mechanism that he established, and he overrides it. It's an overriding mechanism. So Ein Mazel Yisrael just says that occasionally God can override the mechanism and make his own, what's the word? I don't know. Intervention. He can intervene in the system. That is number one. A side point, somewhere I saw maybe so the Kohen, that the mazel of the Jewish nation, what is the constellation? Is there a constellation that is connected to the Jewish nation? And he said, with Vadalei, Aquarius. The Jews are more connected to Aquarius from any other constellation. Okay? Why Aquarius? Because so the answer is like this. So first of all, let's just go back one more time. Where do we know? What's the first instance? Where do you see the first instance that God suspended constellations for Jews? What is the first instance? No, earlier than that. What's the first instance of God suspending constellations for the sake of the Jewish people? And the answer is by the very first Jew, by Avram Avinu, right? He says, look up at the stars, right? And the Medrash says that according to the stars, they were not supposed to have kids, right? This wasn't in the stars, that they were not going to have kids, right? And Hashem, either again, so some I saw that he changed the stars, that possibly God, I don't know, there was some kind of some kind of a cosmic event that completely rearranged whatever he saw over there, and so the nature changed, and now Avram was able to have kids. Or no, there still says over there that Avram doesn't have kids, but here we are, right? We are the kids that Avram doesn't have, right? Or which prime minister said something like, you have to, for a Jew has to believe in miracles in order to be a realist, or something like that. No, there's a line like that. That for a Jew, miracles is reality, or something like that. That's our realism, something along those lines, right? So, anyways, so right. So anyway, so in our creation, in our makeup, is the fact that we have the potential to override this cosmic force. But that's not to say that it's simple. That is not to say that that's just Mazel Yisrael, it just automatically happens. That's not true. It's a miraculous activity. Okay, Dalet. Let's see 4, and that's the last chapter, and then we'll just talk. Okay, v'amnam, however, mishpotei ha'ashpoa zoi shel ha'kechavim, gam he mugbolim. Okay, this mishpotim, the laws by which this influence of the stars works, the laws by which this influence of the star work. Okay, gam he mugbolim, they are also defined, they are limited. So whatever was deemed appropriate by God. Some of the things we know according to the arrangement or the understanding of the stargazers. Mabotim, mabat means to see, that's to gaze, to the stargazers. V'humash, astrologers, basically. V'humash masigim hoivrei hashamayim. This is what the astrologers are able to understand, right? By studying, by figuring out, there's a way to figure something out. Achein loy kol amita siderei mizgalis b'zeh, but not everything is revealed here. V'al kein lo yasigu achoizim b'koichov melaktsas men yonim ha'asidim. So therefore, the stargazers can only gather a little bit of the future. Okay, so all of a sudden he brought here something that he didn't bring before, right? The ability to predict future through the stars. That hint, is there a hint? Till now we were reading. Did you understand that's included in this picture? So I didn't, but it's obvious. Meaning if we are saying, right? I mean, the movements of the stars are very predictable, right? Mm-hmm. There's an order there, okay. Right? There's a constant. It's a clock. It keeps on turning. Mm-hmm. So therefore, if the Mars was covered by the moon and this guy is connected to Mars, again, I'm just making stuff up that I don't know. Mm-hmm. So then we can predict that on such and such date something will occur to this particular individual who is connected to that particular event, right? That's what he's saying, because if we can identify the thing that this individual is connected to, then we should be able to predict the future by saying, okay, there's only a limited amount. And I think, so again, this might touch back on our Bechira situation. Of course it's limited amount because things are not as defined. Mm-hmm. Number one, things are not as defined as we think they are. Number two, I think I think meaning, let's say again that I don't know how to say it. Meaning, there's a macro and there's a micro, right? The macro says, okay, this individual should be blessed with wealth. Okay, so we saw in the stars, this is the star of wealth connected with his star. Now we say, okay, this guy's got money coming his way. How much money? How much money? I don't know. That's not defined. Oh, you say, well, I see lots of wealth. Okay, lots of wealth could be okay. See, he got a job offer that was 25% greater than what he did. To him, that's a lot of wealth. He didn't expect that. That's amazing. He came out of left field, so that's a lot of wealth. So just because you saw something, that doesn't mean you're going to be able to define it. Or maybe he's going to lose his job, and that will teach him to appreciate what he had before. And then when he finds another job a year later, he will actually now have a different perspective. So now for the first time in his life, he actually became wealthy, even though he's making less money than he did last year, because for the first time in his life, he appreciated the idea of what it means to do with less and to appreciate what he has. So you have no idea, just because you saw, I see wealth in your future, you have no idea what that means in practice. Okay? So that's what I think he's saying over here, is that you can never, there's so many ways to, just like a text can be interpreted in many ways. So of course, I know how much more so can whatever information and hints you get from these unusual things that we don't fully understand. So of course that's going to be open to interpretation. Okay, v'loi b'shleimus, you will not be able to know it completely. V'kol shekain, and of course, how much more so, since I just told you that the outcome can be intervened, can be interposed, interjected by a higher force. Just like we said above, and this is what our sages have said, May asher v'loi kol asher. I'm not sure what this is talking about. He's saying that the pasuk says in Yeshayahu that let them tell you something about what will happen. And our sages learned they will tell you something about what will happen, but they're not going to tell you everything that will happen. Right? So good, fine. So nobody has the ability to predict everything through the stars. Okay, let's just talk for a second about this idea. So what I understand is like this. I just happens to have seen it in Maharal, and maybe that was, but I mean, I don't know enough. There are many ways to say this, but basically, the main idea is that there's something called time, right? There's something called time. And every minute, every second, every moment is unique, right? Every moment is different from the moment before it, right? To us, they are connected, but really every moment is a unique state of existence, right? So the way we tell time, right? It says in the beginning of Bereshis, what does it say? When Hashem created the luminaries, right? Hashem created the luminaries. It says He created the luminaries in order for your times, and right, Lashanim, Ulemoyadim, right? These are your timekeepers. Now they don't make time, right? The sun does not make the day. Well, the sun does make the day, but the time is a continuous time, and the way we call it by a day is because there's a revolution of the sun, right? The month, the way we create the month is because the way we divide time is by the heavenly objects. That's something you have to understand. That's a very interesting thing. So the human experience is defined in a lot of ways by these celestial beings, right? They define our existence. How do they define our existence? Primarily, they define our existence through time. They also define our existence by bending maybe space, through gravity, which we don't, not only bending, we see that the moon comes closer to the world, right? The ocean tides pull back. So they also influence us through gravity. But primarily, the way they influence us is through time. So of course, the primary, that's what Koheles always says, Tachas HaShemesh, right? Under the sun. Because the primary influencer of everything that exists is the sun. Right? The moon is the smaller luminary. It's the secondary. It's the month, right? And the year, again, is the solar year. So, what I'm saying is that the transmission mechanism is all really dependent on time. There's a specific time when I was born. When did that happen? How do I know that I was born on such and such date, in such and such hour, in such and such, year? How do we know that? How do we define that? The way we define that is by saying, okay, so this person was born on July 3rd, 1922. Okay, random, right? July 3rd, 1922. Well, how do we know that this was July and not August? Well, we just decided. We decided. We called it the month based on, the non-Jewish months don't fit so well. Adar. He was born in the month of Adar. What does that mean? That means there was revolution. Adar 13. That means the moon was exactly 48%, or not 48, whatever, 98% full at that moment. So again, the date and the time and everything is defined by proportion within some celestial situation, right? So that time of the unique time that he was born, that says something about that person, that he specifically was designed to come at that moment, right? So obviously he's connected to the universe as a whole at that particular moment, with all of the forces that were present at that moment. And every moment is unique, and every person has his unique moment. So what we're saying is that basically, I don't know how to say it. What I'm trying to say is that ultimately it all boils down to time and your unique place in time. Your unique place in time defines what your piece of this system, of this universal machine that God created. That's your unique place in that clockwork. Okay, I don't know if that's helpful or not, but that's that.